Otis Anyaeji joins us now. He is an engineer and the Vice President of Nigerian Society of Engineers. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well, talking about this power sector reforms, and yes, we started off last time but had some hitches. But speaking about some of the challenges, the targets you've talked about, I mean, we had the CEO of Nigeria Delta Power Holding Company saying, yes, we could get about 9,000 megawatts at the end of this year. And not the 14,000 megawatts targets of this government. But from the installations and the plans, the designs, the projects that you've seen going on, how successful do you think that at the end of the day that we will actually get to the stage where we'll have uninterrupted power supply sooner rather than later in this country?
Oh, certainly. If we continue moving at the pace the country has moved in power since 2009, there is no doubt that we are going to achieve a steady, reliable power supply status in the shortest possible time, and then maintain it at that, because power development is not a seasonal phenomenon. It is activity that has to go on at all times. The nation has to keep investing in power to add capacity, to maintain what they have, to expand, and to innovate and modernize. So it is something that has to continue, and it is also something that has to go on an integrated basis. Integrated in the sense that when you're talking about generation, you should also be talking about transmission and about distribution.
Do we have equal capacity in those areas?
Oh, sure.
So if we generate 10,000 megawatts today, assuming, do we equally have the capacity to distribute or transmit and distribute same without leakages?
Well, it is not just the question of leakages, but it's also the question of capacity. Because if you take what has happened in the case of the National Integrated Power Project, when it was started, it was actually seen as an emergency in the generating segment of the sector. And so the initial effort was in putting in place some power stations that can increase the capacity of generation. And then, of course, linked with evacuation facilities and some gas infrastructure. But then a grid study was done early in 2006 that determined that the grid as it is would be too weak to take on those plants that were being built. And so more projects for strengthening of the grid and also of closing the eastern flank of the grid. Because when you talk about a grid, it's something that ought to be closed in. But what we had before NIPP was that on the west, there is some closure, but on the eastern part of the country, between, say, Ekotepene and Jos, was open. And so some of the projects that were, configured had to deal with that problem of closing that flank and getting a complete grid. So we started with about 8 transmission projects strictly for evacuation of the generated power. So 110 projects eventually.